All right, what's up, people? It's been a little while since I've made a video on Buddhism because I kind of covered everything except I didn't. So this is going to be kind of like a reflection on the series, an addendum to the series, etc. And I want to consider something, very specific. And that would be what is, okay, so like, if you've been paying attention, if you've been following the series, you know that I identify as, that shit's, I identify as, this language is so fucking, right now, it's so poisoned. Don't worry, we'll get to the poisons. This is going to be a long video, so buckle your fucking selves in, all right? I made a short video earlier. This is going to be a long one. The school of Buddhism that I adhere to, I guess you would say, the one that I most closely identify with, motherfucker, is what's known as Semsday. And Semsday is one of three divisions, one of three subdivisions, if you choose to go that far, of what's known as the ninth yana. The ninth yana is Adiyoga or Dzogchen, which means basically the great perfection, or the sum of all the teachings. So the ninth yana is perfect in and of itself, but there are three ways additionally that you can look at it. You can either be satisfied with this that you have, or you can vector it through one of three ways. So actually I said I'm the first one. I'm Semsday, mind class. Then there's space class, and then there's instantaneous awareness class. It's just three ways of comprehending the same facticity, if you will, the same ultimate reality, or undeniable arche, however you want to vector these things. At the lower levels, they call them gods and deities, etc. It's just a different way of thinking about the same thing, a different way of assigning some kind of power vector, intermediary between because everything is non-dual. So once you get the fundamental level of the teaching, it's like all that melts away. The Maya ceases. It's like the river just kind of becomes calm. The sky has no clouds, etc. There are various, like if you read the Tantras, there are various ways this is expressed. But yeah, what I want to talk about though is I want to talk about the third yana. Because if you see what's going on here, if there's 9 yanas, that means there's 3 sets of 3. And that's not by accident. It's completely on fucking purpose. Because there's mirrorings at each step. So when you look at the first 3 yanas, you have, the way it works is you have what's called Hanayana. It's the lowest level teaching. It's basically the original sutras of Gautama, or the historical Buddha. That's considered to be the lowest level. Now, maybe I'll get back and deconstruct and show how that's actually the highest level. Should I do that? Or you probably already know where it's going to go, right? So no, that's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, there's also a reverse symmetry. If you actually know these teachings, if you've ever been taught at a high level, then you'll understand is that there's a whole thing going on here where every level reflects every other level in what's known as an infinite pool of mirrors, which is like, if you understand the culture that this came through, you'll understand that water was about as close as they had to a mirror, to a certain point. But we don't need to talk about that. That's all cultural artifacts and shit like that. the ultimate teachings are always either they're on point or they're not. Either they're real or they're fake, right? This is why I say that Buddhism is a very practical philosophy, and especially once you get to the higher level teachings. It's completely accepting of the world as it is. I know when you're at the lower levels, it's like, no, it's not. It's very critical of the world. But you understand that what that criticism is meant to induce in you, once you start really figuring the whole thing out, is that this entire thing it's kind of like a mind forge, or kind of like a perfection device. And each of us is like a part in the mechanism. And so that particular part really can't be destroyed if the mechanism as a whole is to function, which the mechanism does function, which means we're all... fuck it. I don't want to get into all that, because then we have to start talking about B theory of time, and some people might want to see me make another Hoffman video, so we'll have to save a lot of that. But the point being is that of the original Buddhism, there were 3 levels, and I said the Hanayana, which, oh damn, I told you I was gonna go off script, man, because there ain't no script. There is no script, bro. That's just not the way I roll. So you have Hanayana, which is small vehicle, which basically means it's the idea of perfection of the individual self, as in the body. And the yana in the body is the vehicle, right? And the kaya is the body. And so the body, the kaya, has to fit into the yana in order to swim upstream. That's a metaphor that's never been taught specifically. It's always been understood. That's no belt level teaching. If you don't get that, then you don't understand anything that's going on here. So you have the small vehicle, the Hinayana, which must ultimately at least carry 1 kaya, right? Now, which kaya is it? Well, there are the 3 kayas. We have what? Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, and at the highest level, Dharmakaya. Those are the 3 bodies. Is that a 3-body problem? I don't fucking know. You tell me. It's not, but you know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I have a lot of interests. Okay, that's basically what I was saying. So, second level, the second kaya. No. Second yana, my bad. So you got me confused. The second kaya is Sambhogakaya, which is Nirmanakaya is like the individuated self, which, you know. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you the parallels. So you have the 3 kayas. You have Nirmanakaya, which represents the individuated self, which it parallels Semsday, my tradition, the mind class. These are like 3 lines that go up in parallel, right? Then you have Sambhogakaya, which vectors up to Longete, which is the space class, which is basically you either have self, or you have space, or you have time, or the absence thereof, which is the 3rd parallel, which is Dharmakaya to the instantaneous school. And the instantaneous school actually has 2 subdivisions within itself. Now, see, this isn't my school, but they work a different way to release something spiritual in the individual, if that makes any fucking sense. Because I never vectored that way. It's kind of like a personality test. It's like, okay, we have 3 doors here. You know, you might have this personality, this personality, this personality. And if you have this personality, you might even have 2 more. It's no... And then that's if you're in the penthouse. If you're down below, you know, you might have a different door that you can walk through. Guess what? All doors, all roads lead to the Buddha, lead to Rome. You feel me? So that's ultimately what it is. What I want to talk about is, okay, so you have Hinayana, which is a small boat. I gave the parallels, right? Yeah. Then you have what's called Mahayana, which is the big boat. So now we're not just talking about one guy in a boat. We're talking about a bunch of dudes in a boat. One boat, but still a bunch of dudes in it. So this becomes, instead of the path of the Arhat, this becomes the path of the Buddha. And the Bodhisattva especially. Okay, so we're seeing a progression of the religion. It started off actually as somewhat of a mundane philosophy, which is where it ultimately ends, which is ironic. If you get what I'm saying, I'm giving you high-level teachings, man, and I'm doing it for free. But because I have to. I'm a Buddhist, bro. But it's funny. God damn, this new phone is fucking heavy as fuck. I know you're like, well, shit, it's been like 10 minutes. I'm using my hand in front of this fucking shit. I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be my hand. That's my hand. See my hand? I gotta switch hands, dude. This phone is like 8 pounds, bro. Besides, you don't need to see anything. That's the point of this fucking video. So we have Mahayana, which is one boat with many people in it. So then you get the idea of the savior, which is technically not the Buddha. The Buddha is the enlightened one. The Bodhisattva is the savior. The Bodhisattva is the Jesus equivalent. I mean, you could make an argument as to when this was introduced. I don't think any of it matters. I think, it doesn't matter which culture you're in. Certain things are paradigmatic and necessary because we all inhabit the same fucking subset of reality, or what is called in our tradition a world. And yeah, there are many, and they've been documented, and they all have fucking names. You need to look into Buddhism, man. Anywho, so yeah, so you have that whole boat with a bunch of people in it, Mahayana. And then you have the third, and what in normal traditional Buddhism is considered the final, which is something called Vajrayana. Now, people have different ways of translating this, but it literally means diamond vehicle. So I want you to understand the gravity of that progression. You go from one to many. Now, what you would think what would be next in the sequence? One to many to infinity, right? And that's exactly what it means. Come on, man. Did I have to fucking dramatic pause there? No, I didn't. It's exactly what it means. It means infinite vehicle. Diamond vehicle, infinite vehicle. One, many, infinite. Because what's really going on is you're realizing, okay, let me say this. You've heard the phrase, iron sharpens iron. Steel sharpens steel. The only thing that can cut a diamond is another diamond, etc., right? That's the nature of this level, if you have to look at it. And one thing I would be really interested in seeing somebody do, not me, because, hey, I'm lazy. I could do it in my mind, is to parallel the 9 yanas with the 9 separate, apart from Malkuth, and Malkuth would obviously be the individual. You should do that. It means Hanayana would line up with Yesod, etc. Come on, somebody get to work on that. You could be insta famous. I'm giving somebody out there a homework project. Because to me, hey, it's all fun and games. But it's all super serious too. So, what is the diamond vehicle? Well, this is when you start getting introduced to certain concepts, and you always have to take everything with a grain of salt, especially when you read the Tantras. Keep in mind they're very number oriented, so there's everything has a set of numbers, And if you don't understand that about their culture, you're going to get lost really quickly. But once you kind of get what's going on, and you see how the parallels work, and what they're actually trying to say. So, for example, you have the 5 primordial wisdoms. And then you also have the 5 primordial poisons. And that's a low-level teaching that they're separate. And the high-level teaching, you understand that they're just manifestations of each other depending on, kind of like, and this is going to sound really mundane and stupid, but it's actually the heart of the teaching, is that, sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're sad. So sometimes it's hot outside, sometimes it's cold outside. These are what are called external forces, because the, ultimate teaching of very early on Buddhism, this is between, maybe it's Yana 1, Yana 2, where you start realizing that, it's in Yana 1, of course, because it is original to the Buddha, but the concept of anatman, it was basically this is why Buddhism is considered by Hindus to be a heresy, because he basically accepted a lot of the Hindu shit, but he was very, atheistic insofar as all these silly gods, and he was right about that. And then also, he denied the Atman, which was the self. So he was like, there is no abiding self. The self is just kind of like an aggregation of external indices, which are, collected by a poisoned mind. And so this is when you start getting into the difference between the wisdoms and the poisons. So I just had to put that in there just to kind of transition to a higher level. But the fact that everything that seems clear is also fuzzy. It seems clear from one perspective, but that perspective is also very limited. So what's happening is that Buddhism is a I say concept. It's not one single concept, but as an analysis of the world, is basically looking at the fact that you have a difference between apparency, which is like the way the way things seem, the way they appear, etc., as to what's really going on. I'm not going to say the way things really are, because that implies some degree of knowledge, but that there is a process that it's kind of like we're a witness to this process. And we have to understand it. We have to understand what's really taking place, our specific spot in that whole fucking thing, and to act accordingly. Now, I realize that, well, see, this is where I part paths. Although, I say I'm a ninth Dan Buddhist, or whatever the fuck you want to say about me. I'm also a heretic. Obviously. I'm not just a fucking Buddhist. I'm a Satanist. So I reject a lot of the ethical concerns. I'm sorry, I just do. I understand compassion, but what does compassion literally mean? It means to suffer with. Just from the fucking roots, right? Con plus passion with suffering. It's not that fucking hard, man. It's funny because we turn the word passion into something. Oh, wait, is that the love, sex, death fucking paradox? That could be a video in and of itself. I told you this was going to be long, man. Yeah, that Elon Musk thing must have been triggering. But not to me. Anyway, I just dated myself. Oh yeah, I held up a newspaper. I'm being held hostage. But seriously, this is the concept of delineating. As like I said, only a diamond can scratch another diamond. So the diamond mind, Tantras are always, the way they read is kind of like, it's the mind talking to itself. It's very Gnostic. I mean, from a Western perspective, it would be considered Gnostic. They don't vector things the way we do, so it's not exactly that, but the idea is that the mind is talking to itself and basically saying, wake up, wake up. You're here now. This is what you have to know. You're a fresh mind. You haven't gotten to that level yet. Let me help you. Let me give you this hand. This is the diamond scratching the other diamond. The mind scratching the other mind. But you know what? Like I said, this is a retrospective. It's going to be, I'm going to time myself out at 25. So if I get to 25, you'll be lucky. But this is a retrospective of my Buddhism series, of my particular understanding of yanas, and what is the ultimate purpose of holding a worldview, or more importantly, a state of mind. Think about that for a second. A state of mind. Mind is what's important. Understanding rationality and what's behind it is important. False mentalities, not so much.